Hello, my name's Stuart, the Unrepentant Atheist. Thanks for tuning in. It's New Year's Day, it's the evening. 2023 has started, another year. So hope you have a good one. Let's get going with this Darth Dawkins video. He's discussing with Terence Arts, and he's actually 18 years old, by the way. I'll tell you before we start, and let's get going with this. Let's see what happens.
There, Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit!
We're not dealing with people who are innocent bystanders. Like if I came along and I told you that there's a large creature in one of the Great Lakes, like the Loch Ness monster, where you can sit back and say, "Well, can you prove that to me?" And you have the luxury of being neutral, but God is not something that you can be neutral about.
So what if I asked you, do you believe?
Yeah, sorry, just before we go on, I appreciate what he's saying there. And in fact, Matt actually mentioned years ago, somebody said to him, "Do you believe in the Holocaust?" And he said, "Yes, I do." She said, "Well, do you realize there are people who don't?" He said, "Yes, Holocaust deniers, but there's lots of evidence, etc., etc." And anyway, if a Holocaust never happened, so what? Doesn't affect my it doesn't really affect my worldview, doesn't affect my eternal life, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, I appreciate what Darth Dawkins is saying there, that God is a special case in that sense, because if God exists, then it affects everybody. But that doesn't really mean, or at least in my view, it doesn't mean that God should be exempt from, or God claims should be exempt from burden of proof. In the same way, really, that the existence of the people who claim the existence of the Loch Ness monster have also got burden of proof. Same thing, but Darth Dawkins doesn't think so.
Believe in the Loch Ness monster world or the not Loch Ness monster world?
First of all, you're not understanding the landscape here. Okay, there's no such thing as the Loch Ness monster world versus the not Loch Ness monster. The Loch Ness monster is a contingent temporal being that has located within a time-space coordinates. The God world versus the not God world, okay, is a composite worldview that is universally governed or not governed by God. Okay, do you understand the difference?
I guess, but I just went into a problem.
I don't think you're understanding. Okay. So in the God world, God is the concrete universal that all things are related to. So in the not God world, then everything would not be related. Okay. So when you bring up there's no such thing as the Loch Ness monster world versus the non-Loch Ness monster world. There's nobody out there.
I actually like that. I actually like the way he puts that.
Who see the Loch Ness monster world, if you were being sincere, would be a functional replacement for God. Okay. That would be God as far as you were concerned.
Okay. My main point was, though, like, I get what you're saying, right? Like, God is a proposition which affects all of, our existence and reality, right? And the Loch Ness monster is not. But my contention here is, like, just help me understand this. How would I demonstrate, like, if my criteria was I needed to demonstrate something for me to believe it, how do I demonstrate the non-existence of the Loch Ness monster? Right? If my criteria,
you demonstrate the.
I'm not really too sure why he asked that question. I don't really think it's that relevant.
Non-existence of something called. You give an argument called the absence of evidence is evidence of absence in some cases.
So yeah, so absence of evidence can be evidence of absence, and many people think that applies to God, but obviously, oddly enough, for a lot of sort of claims about things which exist in the natural world, I don't believe in the Loch Ness monster, but there might be something under there. So the fact that we haven't seen it, been able to find it, I suppose doesn't mean that it's not there. There might be something. So it's not necessarily the case that you could say that the Loch Ness monster doesn't exist, but he's saying that you can't. You by the same token, you would have to take the position that if you're not going to believe in God, then you would have to say that God doesn't exist. And I don't think that's what Terence really is saying, but we'll see where the conversation goes. I've seen this already, so I know where it goes.
So the point is this, is that atheism is not sitting back in your little folding lounge chair, okay, and just saying, prove it to me.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of mischaracterizing things there. It's not the case that we're sort of sitting back. He's saying that we can't say that we disbelieve and that we need evidence, effectively. What he's saying is that we're making a decision. We're actually rebutting the existence of God, and we're saying that God doesn't exist, and that is going to mean that we've got this, this shambolic, chaotic worldview.
Atheism and theism are propositions which negate each other. So when atheists say, prove to me that God exists, and we point out to...
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that atheism negates theism as such. It puts a question mark against it. That's my view.
Them that this is just simply an excuse because atheism has not been proven to them. Then they bicker with us that it's just we're the one making the claims. No, both the theist and the atheist are both making the claim. Okay.
Well, what claim are atheists making in respect of God? They're not making any, or at least those sort of not absolute hard-nosed atheists. Hard-nosed atheists are making a claim that God doesn't exist. Yes, that's true. Then he should find those atheists to debate with. But the rest of us are just basking in disbelief.
What we're dealing with most atheists, okay, 98% of most atheists are intellectually unsophisticated and are unprepared to have a mature philosophical discussion and debate.
Well, I suppose you could say, I mean, I'm not sure about it. I don't know where he gets the 98% figure. I think what he's saying is, rather than being precise, is a lot of atheists. And yeah, I mean, that probably is the case. If I go out onto the streets here and, pluck out 50 people who say they don't believe in God, if I pretend to be a Christian and present a few arguments to them, they would probably be floundering. But I mean, so what? What he's got to do is find those 2% of atheists who've studied the arguments and are ready to debate with him
on atheism. That's why they descend into bickering like they're snotty 14-year-olds who didn't take their ADD meds. Okay. Well,
now he's just insulting, ad hominem attacks.
I present a much higher intellectual philosophical presentation of the existence of God and refutation of atheism, but I'm dealing with a bunch of mental midgets and people who have teenage minds. That's why it's so difficult to have conversations on this. Okay.
Okay.
So are you an atheist?
I guess I am. I'm kind of questioning.
Okay. Well, no, you either have a positive belief in God as your creator.
He didn't like that. I'm kind of questioning. It sounds like he's sitting on the fence and he wants to be neutral. Oh no, Darth Dawkins won't accept that.
Or you don't.
Okay, I guess I don't.
Okay. So what is the rational basis for not believing in God? Let's see how.
Well, I mean, that's okay. I mean, at this point, he's saying, what is the rational basis for not believing in God? So he's accepting that Tom Rabbit is in a state of disbelief, not asserting that there is no God. Remember that.
How long it takes you to become evasive and deceptive. Okay, everyone listen in. Let's see how long it takes him to be evasive and deceptive.
Well, now he's sort of poisoning the well.
So tell me, what is your rational basis for not believing in God?
Well, I'll try my best. I'm not apologetic atheist or something like that, but I guess it's because I don't have any evidence.
Oh, how do you?
Well, I mean, that's fine. He's saying that he doesn't have any evidence. He's not saying there is no evidence.
You support that claim?
Well, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's like me, when I'm in the street, there's a man begging outside the shop, and I say I haven't got any change. He says to me, support that claim. What am I going to do? To empty my pockets out and strip myself down and empty out? I mean, if somebody doesn't have any evidence, they don't have any evidence. Maybe he'll provide the evidence.
Well, I think that evidence is something that
How did you decide that the sun, the moon, and the stars all don't belong to God? How'd you figure?
Okay, so this is Darth Dawkins now is seizing control of the narrative.
well, I mean, to get to that conclusion, I think that you have to assume that it's God.
It's not an answer to my question. You've decided that all these things are not indicative of God.
Well, this happens so often, not just with Darth Dawkins, but with other Christian apologists, that they start articulating what you're saying, and they're misrepresenting what you're saying, or they're just simply putting words into your mouth.
Have you determined what they are indicative of?
Not really, but
Then how did you exclude God?
Well, did he exclude God? Did he rule out God? I don't think he did.
it's not apparent to me.
No. You just told me that they're not evidence of God. Well, what are they evidence of?
Oh, no. He didn't say that. He never said they're not evidence of God. You can go back to the beginning. He never said that.
I don't know, but doesn't
Wait, hold, stop.
necessarily mean-
Stop. You just told me that they're not evidence of God, but then when I ask you what are they evidence of, you said you don't know. So if you don't know what they're evidence of, how do you know they're not evidence of God?
Well, now he's got to say, I don't know that they're not evidence of God.
Well, I mean, something can only be evidence when put.
Listen, Terrence. Do you understand how you are failing miserably here? You told me that the world around you is not evidence for God. You're making a categorical universal declaration. The world is not evidence for God. That's your position. I then ask you, what is it?
Why does he keep doing this? Why does he keep? Why bother having another person in the room if you're just going to make stuff up about what they're saying?
Evidence of, and you go, oh, I don't know.
Well, what I mean is,
Terrence, are you a teenager?
Yes.
Okay, how old are you, Terrence?
18.
Okay, all right. I'm 61. Okay, now I'm operating at a 61-year-old's education and intellect level. You're dealing at an 18-year-old level. Okay, now that doesn't mean you're stupid. Okay, but you need to focus on what I'm saying to you instead of cliched responses that you would give at the cafeteria table. You said nothing is evidence for God, and then I ask you, what is it evidence of? And
he never said that. He never said nothing is evidence for God. Why isn't he defending himself?
you say, well, I don't know. Then that begs the question, how did you rule it out of evidence for God? How did you do that?
Well, I guess my epistemological framework is rooted in, I guess, empirical evidence.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
You know what this sounds to me? It sounds to me like a forced confession. When they get some poor kid, they need to stitch somebody up for a murder or something like that, and they just literally put the whole narrative out there. So you did that, didn't you? What else did you do? How many times did you stab her? I mean, he's just literally putting words into his mouth so that he can win this argument, and it's so transparent. Anybody can see it.
Stop with the bullshit.
I'm sorry.
What you just said was pure bullshit. You know it, and I know, and everybody listening. Okay. That was a non-substantive response. How did you determine that all these things have their ultimate root in God? How did you determine that?
I determined it because there's nothing. There's no.
So you got nothing. You got nothing. Yeah, you just sit there, 18 years old. You go, oh, there's no evidence for God. Do you realize what a grandiose statement that is? Do you have any idea what a grandiose statement that is? To say.
Well, right now, Darth Dawkins is thinking, well, this is game, set, and match.
Nothing is evidence for God.
I mean, the thing is,
now, what do you have to support that claim is true?
Well, can I just explain my logical
No,
thinking?
you can answer the question instead of dodging and evading like most atheists do. You see, this is what I deal with every single day dealing with atheists. I deal with atheists who lie, who dodge, who evade, who double talk, who bicker. Now, explain to me, how did
Well, I'm sorry, Darth Dawkins, but you've been lying and you've been double talking.
you determine that the sun, the moon, and the stars and the rabbit running across your front lawn, how did you determine that it cannot and does not stand in causal relations to God? How did you determine that?
Well, causal relations, I'm not sure about that. I can't determine that.
Sir,
it
when you
doesn't
say
have
there's no
causal
evidence
relations.
for when you say there's no evidence for God, you're talking about causal relations.
Okay, but like the thing is, there can be things, right, that have causal relations to something.
Terrence,
But not
you're
on
not
itself.
Terrence, you're not addressing the question. If you were, I wouldn't be responding in this fashion. Now,
Okay.
you said there's no evidence for God. I want you to show me how you know it's not evidence for God.
Well, this is how I determine. This is my criteria about evidence. Right? This is how I think.
Terrence, I'm going to interrupt you again because you're again dodging. When I stop talking and you open up your mouth, all I want to hear you do is answer my question. Now, tell me how you determine that all these things cannot and do not stand in relations to God. Go ahead.
I'll have to start with defining my idea of evidence. Can I do that?
No, I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me why the moon is not God's.
Well, because just because it may have causal relations to God, right, does not necessarily.
No, Terrence, I'm being very patient with you. Tell me why the moon is not a creation of God.
I don't know if it's not a
okay. You now
last, finally, it took him how long? 9 minutes 43 to get there. Oh, he could have said this 5 or 6 minutes ago. Just said, I don't know that that the moon is not God's. I don't know that. I haven't seen any evidence for that. It may well be the case, but if you could demonstrate it to me, I'd be grateful. Took him all that time to get there.
Now contradicted yourself, because a minute ago you said the moon.
Yeah, and of course he won't. Obviously, Darth Dawkins will not accept that, because it doesn't really make it easy for him, does it? Because he only likes to deal with atheists who make positive claims that there is no evidence, definitively there is no evidence, and definitively there is no God. That's the only kind of atheist that Darth Dawkins wants to argue with.
Everything is not evidence for God. So the moon is not evidence for God, but now you don't know you don't know. 1 minute again, you said you did.
Yeah, well, of course, now he's going to say he's inconsistent, so he's not worth arguing with. That's the problem.
No, you know that everything is not evidence for God. You know that the moon is not evidence for God. Now you don't know.
Well, the thing is,
all right, Terrence, we're done.
Well, of course, because he doesn't know how to deal. I'm sure that he could deal with that, but he's not. But he's not prepared to, because he doesn't want to have an honest two-way discussion.
Okay, you're just blathering like you're at the cafeteria table. You're wasting my time. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but you're wasting my time with your blathering.
Me neither. But
you told me there's no evidence for God. I have been asking you for the last 15 or 20 minutes to explain to me how you know it's not evidence for God, and all I've heard is bloviating. So we're done. Thank you for wasting my time.
Same page of what
okay, yeah, we're not on the same page. Okay. See, it doesn't matter whether they're 18 or 58. They're all pathological liars.
Okay, guys, that's it. That was very unsatisfactory. He seems to be, either it's his natural character or he's deliberately being unpleasant and dishonest as well. And the fact that the poor boy is only 18 years old, I would have been in exactly the same position as Tom Rabbit at that age. I would have probably struggled just as much as he did. But he could have avoided it. He could have avoided it if he just simply said, I don't know if there's evidence for God. I haven't seen evidence for God. The natural world may be evidence of God, but I haven't seen that demonstrated demonstrated? Can you demonstrate it to me? So, very unpleasant person, and I'll be back again with another Darth Dawkins video soon. Bye for now.